Well, the coronavirus has hit the arts hard, with predictions that 70% of theatres could be forced to close by Christmas.
Well, the government's now stepped in with a £1.57 billion rescue package to ensure there's no final act for hundreds of theatres, independent cinemas and museums across the country. And joining us now from South London is award-winning playwright and film and TV writer James Graham. Well, James, on the face of it, good news this morning.
Yeah, it's really good news. It's really welcome. We can't understate how close in these past few days the entire cultural infrastructure of Britain was close to near collapse. You've been reporting so well on it. I'm so grateful. You'll have seen in the past 7 days many theatres in Southampton and Plymouth be made insolvent and hundreds of redundancies. It's not that theatre is any more special than any other industry that's been affected by this virus. It's just that obviously theatre is more disproportionately affected because what it is, what makes it so brilliant and beautiful.
Well, apart from anything else, these are thousands and tens of thousands of jobs. And to me, one person's job is just as important as everybody else's. You know, we're all in this together. And I felt there was a lot of sort of snobbery going on, actually, of kind of, well, it's just the arts, who cares? Well, actually, yeah, they bring a lot of pleasure to people, the arts, a lot of distraction and relaxation.
I couldn't agree more. You're right. I mean, actually, it's 300,000 people plus who actually work in theatre, so more than car manufacturing and fishing. And again, as you say, they're not more important. But this is a huge national success story. We're really good at this.
Yeah.
We sell this stuff around the world. It gives us a global reputation in terms of who we are when, let's be honest, in the absence of anything else, our comedies, our TV dramas, our films, which is all interconnected with our theatre.
Well, James Graham, that's a really good point, because you're a screenwriter and you wrote a huge hit about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire called Quiz. Lots of people might think, well, look, we've got TV, we've got streaming, you know, a number of actors have done online programmes which have kept us entertained. What is the need, you might argue, for theatre? There are a huge number of people, of course, who enjoy it, but there's many, many more people who don't go. What is the process by which theatre feeds into the wider cultural environment of more popular services? Yeah,
I think that's a really important question. I think two things. As you said, I'm a writer who began in theatre. I fell in love with theatre through a youth theatre company in working class Mansfield. And now I'm so lucky and I feel so privileged to now be having trained and invested in theatre, to now be writing films and television drama. As you said, I wrote the Coffin Major drama scandal called Quiz. That started as a play in Chichester, and now it gives me great thrill to see that television drama being broadcast around the world. Last week it was in America. It's about to be broadcast in New Zealand, Italy, France. That's because of an investment, a public investment in theatre, that we now get to sell that British story around the world.
And do you think that with such a massive injection of public money into the arts, that more possibly could be done right at this moment to make it more democratic? Because, you know, we've been talking this morning about being lucky enough to go and see big shows, big ticket prices. But of course, you know, there's a whole group of people who think that those shows are off limits to them because they're just priced out of them. But if you're going to put this much public money into the arts, that has to be for everyone, doesn't it?
I couldn't agree more, and you're right. Thanks to this investment, it is now possible for 1,100 theatres across the country, not just London's West End, but Newcastle, Dundee, Plymouth. These theatres in their local communities can survive. So you're right. What can we now do to make sure that we open our doors as wide as possible to make sure the access to not just making art, but seeing art by normal people is possible. So that's now the mission. That is absolutely now the absolute heart of going, what can we do to make sure that these theatres play the most vital role in their communities, in the absence, let's be honest, of almost sometimes nothing else. The social infrastructure in a lot of these town centres and city centres has gone. We talk about lockdown ending, but actually in my hometown of Kirkby and Ashfield in Nottinghamshire, even the pubs couldn't survive. There's no pubs, there's no youth centres, there's no leisure centres. Often the theatres are the only civic physical space for people to gather. So I and my colleagues are now completely passionately obsessed by making sure that these theatres are active roles in their community for people to gather, youth education, adult learning, anything else we can think of to make sure that they exist as community
And I think
centres.
it's also, as you touched on, I mean, we have a world-class... I mean, we keep claiming we're world-beating at stuff in this pandemic, and, of course, every time we look at it, it turns out we're the opposite. But the one thing we are world-beating at, actually, is acting. You know, we have produced some of the greatest actors in the world. If you ask anyone in Hollywood, spent a lot of time in LA, you talk to them to American actors or directors or producers, they think we are the best in the world at this. And the idea that the whole training mechanism of local theatres and so on would be destroyed would actually remove something that we are genuinely world beaters at.
I think so. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think you're right. We are. It's one of the last areas that we are incredibly admired and considered world class. And look, no one watching about this cares about Oscars and Emmys and those kinds of awards. But those things do matter in terms of other countries having confidence, not just in receiving our shows to take to Broadway. I was really lucky. I did a play called Ink, which opened in the West End. And that went to Broadway. That's now being turned into, I'm really pleased to say, that's now being turned into a movie. So
Were you involved in that one, James?
Yeah, I wrote that one.
Oh, you wrote that one? That was brilliant. I didn't realise that. I loved that. I went to see that with my son, who's a young actor. We loved it. Absolutely loved it.
And how much did you pay for your tickets?
I can't remember, but what I do know about the ticket prices is it's all relative. I know people who moan about all this and then pay good money to go see the football, or they go to their local pub or restaurant. It's all about choices. I think that going to the theatre is an enriching experience, and you can go and pay top prices. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. But you can also go and pay cheap prices.
Yes, and look, we need to absolutely do more to make sure that people who can't afford it can get into the theatre. But look, you're right. So Ink, which I'm really glad you enjoyed, it was a play about Rupert Murdoch buying and transforming the Sun in the 1960s. That began in a tiny 250-seat theatre in North London, where I think the ticket prices were maybe around 30, 35 quid. So we should try and get those things down. That eventually did go to Broadway last year. Now an American studio has commissioned that to turn that into a film. So that's American money investing in a British story where next year they're going to come to this country and pay actors, crew, electricians, stage designers to share a British story around the world. And I think you're right. I'm glad you used the word pride. I think we should be really proud of this. And actually, it really matters to people, not just on an international level. I couldn't believe the outpouring of upset when we announced a week ago that the Plymouth Theatre Royal was going to make all of its artists redundant. This really does matter to people. So I'm really grateful that the government recognises that. This is an unprecedented package. It's world beating. They're spending more money than any other country, Germany, France, on trying to rescue the arts, because I can only assume the economic and the social arguments